How do pawns start a powerful chess attack? Imagine a quiet battlefield where tiny soldiers march forward, shaping the entire fight without even swinging a sword. That's what pawns do in chess. They might seem simple, but they hold the key to launching big attacks. When you understand how to use pawns effectively, you can turn small moves into major threats. Pawns control space by occupying squares directly in front of them. When they work together, they form a pawn chain or structure that defines how the game unfolds. This structure can support an attack or create weaknesses for your opponent to exploit. For example, pushing a pawn to challenge the enemy's formation can open lines for your pieces to attack. A common tactic is the pawn break. This is when you move a pawn to challenge the opponent's pawn, often by advancing into their territory. For instance, moving a pawn from d2 to d4 and then to d5 can disrupt their pawn chain. This move can open up files for your rooks or diagonals for your bishops. Timing is everything here. You want to execute these breaks when they will cause maximum damage and open lines for your pieces to attack. In positions where both players castle on opposite sides, a pawn storm often begins. This involves pushing pawns toward the enemy king to open lines and create attacking chances. For example, white might push the h-pawn and g-pawn forward, while black pushes the a-pawn and b-pawn. The side that opens the king's defenses first gains a big attacking advantage. Another idea is the minority attack. This is when you push fewer pawns on one side to provoke weaknesses. For example, pushing b2 to b4 and then to b5 can force black to exchange pawns. This leaves black with isolated or backward pawns that are easier targets. This strategy turns a numerical disadvantage into a positional advantage, giving you targets to attack later. Pawns can also create weaknesses by provoking isolated or backward pawns. An isolated pawn is alone on a file with no friendly pawns nearby. A backward pawn can't be supported easily and becomes a target. By forcing your opponent into these weaknesses, you can send your pieces to attack these vulnerable points. In practice, launching a pawn attack requires careful thought. Not every position is right for a pawn's storm or break. You need to check if your king is safe, your pieces are active, and if you can handle counterattacks. Sometimes sacrificing a pawn can open lines for your rooks and bishops, leading to a strong attack. Remember, pawns are not just foot soldiers. They set the stage for your entire attack. By controlling space, executing timely breaks, and creating weaknesses, pawns can start a powerful assault that your pieces can follow up on. Learning how to use pawns well in the middle game is a big step toward becoming a stronger player.